Hello everyone, myself Dr. Venu Shri. I'm Assistant Professor at Department of Architecture, NIT Hamirpur, Himachal Pradesh. I welcome you all in the first lecture of this NPTEL online certificate course titled on Intelligent and Smart Building in the context of futuristic architecture. In this first lecture, we will talk about the origins of the futuristic movement of 19th century. See, art and architecture has always been a significant source of reflection of a particular society at a particular time. Therefore, since ages, to understand any particular art or architecture style, we should understand the historical context of a particular era. As the 20th century is the period of the study in this course, we would talk about the historical context of early 20th century and influence of industrialization on the art and architecture in 20th century. See, 20th century was a period of significant global transformation as it was worked with the century of extreme violence. It was witnessed World War I and World War II. After World War I, architecture became a tool for rebuilding national identity and pride through building monuments and memorials. But due to lack of funds and direction, because of political instability, this rebuilding was delayed. And as Europe faced vast destruction after World War I, with unemployed soldiers, with shortage of food, and with shortage of mass housing. Therefore, people wanted to invest on utilitarian architecture in place of monumental architecture. This utilitarian architecture, like mass housing, train stations, post offices, schools, hospitals, etc. Therefore, these two world wars reshaped political borders and global power structures. This rapid development of steam engines, electricity, automobiles, airplanes, and railroadways, humans understand the phenomena of time, space, speed, and power.
This unprecedented revolution of science and technology redefined late 19th and early 20th
century of time, speed, power, and space. So the rapid development of steam engines, electricity, automobiles, aeroplanes, and railroads introduced a new rhythm of life. So this revolution transformed human understanding of time, space, and power. Therefore, it ended up with the requirement of new style of art and architecture. The most important invention of this era was steam engine. It was foundation stone of the industrial revolution, reshaping economies, societies, environments, and even architecture. It impacted the society as industrial and economic impact, like as mechanization of production, because the steam engine powered machines in factories now enabled mass production of the products, just like textile, mining, and metallurgy. It gave birth to a factory system, new factory system. With this development, now industries are no longer dependent on water needs. Now we have steam engines, which are faster. However, now factories could be located in urban areas which are closer to labor and market. And this new type of industry boosted coal and iron industries as well, because demand of fuel and materials now increase and it's stimulating new industries and infrastructure. And this new phenomena increased global trade. And it is the global trade has been expanded because steamships reduces the travel time and enabling more efficient global trade and colonization. The transportation impact of this invention was in the field of locomotives and railways, as steam engine made transportation faster, cheaper and more reliable. This revolutionized transportation enabled movement faster and more efficient, which is turn facilitated global trade and migration. It also shrinking the time-space perception. So now the travel time is reduced. This alter how people perceive distance and time, paving the way of modern concept of time zones in their daily life. And the next area of impact was urbanization, because now people transportation enabled people to migrate to the city easily, conveniently. So people migrated to cities for work, increasing the growth and the density of urban centers. Therefore, the industrialization also has a huge impact of urban and architecture, as now new building typologies are realized by the designers in the society. That is factory, railway stations, warehouses, tenant houses, which are required for the labor. And this new societal change transformed the cities. Now cities like Manchester, Birmingham and Glasgow expanded rapidly around these steam-powered industries. And these new cities had a huge hunger of using new materials. So cast iron and later steels were used in large span roofs for train sheds and factories, changing architecture forms. So we can say that this advancement in the field of construction material, transportation, mass production of goods, nuclear power and automobiles affect the societal fabric as well as art and architecture extensively. The second important technical development was the development of production of high quality steel at large scale and at low cost. However, high quality steel in the early 20th century was the result of advances in metallurgy, industrial chemistry, and engineering. But the steam engines also played a crucial foundational role in the manufacturing of high quality steel, because steam engines powered blast furnaces, rolling mills, and hammers and enabled large scale continuous operation in iron and steel production. As compared to water wheels or manual labors, now the new process is more efficient. Therefore, development of machineries and mass production factories for good began to appear at rapidly. The invention of high quality steel had profound and lasting impact on industry infrastructure and societies. Now, the industrial expansion took place. As high quality steel is now become available in large volumes and in consistent shapes, this placed iron in railways, bridges, skyscrapers and buildings. High quality steel enable the construction more stronger, more durable and taller structure. It revolutionized urban landscape and enabled the iconic curtain wall architecture of skyscraper. The transportation revolution, previously railways struggled with brittle wrought iron rails. Those were now transformed by high quality steel, strength and durable. This led to faster, durable trains and expanded railway network. Thereby, there was a boost in commerce and that reshaped regional economics. And the cost and scalability of the previous projects has also been increased, as these innovations like the Bessemer and open heart processes massively reduced production cost of steel, turning it from a luxury good into an essential industrial material. The use of new machines in production has brought the concept of mass production and standardization, And this has led to the significant changes in the field of production. Development of new innovations like Bessemer and open heart process has a significant long lasting impact on the cost and scalability of the new products, as they allowed massive reduction in the production cost of steel and these new technology turning the production on a shorter rate at low cost. And with this development, with this advancement, the development of goods are now at a faster rate. So these technology turning the availability of luxurious good into an essential industrial material. So the use of new machines in the production has brought the concept of the mass production and its standardization. And this standardization as mass production of goods has led to the significant changes in the field of production. These changes led to a radical restructuring of the European economy because goods such as sugar, coffee, and tea are now become a which previously considered as a luxury now become natural necessity for the middle and lower class people. The direct increase of demand for consumer goods promotes mass production of daily utility items. So, mass production was made feasible, leading to economics of scale and accelerated the economic growth. Now, factories could operate more efficiently, consistently, and at higher capacities, which allowing experimentation with new alloy and purer steels. So, the population of the Europe started to increase from the 16th century. But it accelerated with the Industrial Revolution due to rapid urbanization in the 19th century as a new social and economic ideology. So the increased production of goods at rapid rate in 19th century gave birth to a new social and economic ideology named consumerism, and it come into existence to serve the increased acquisition of goods and services in new increased amounts due to urbanization, especially in Western Europe and North America. This societal change is due to industrial revolution, as it drastically changing the production market and lifestyle of Western Europe. The consumerism refers to a social model where the buying and consumption of goods become central to cultural values, identities, and economic stability. It was shaped by industrialization, urbanization, economic growth, and technological advancement. And it changes the social norms also. The impact of consumerism extended far beyond material consumption by influencing social values, identities, economic structures, and culture practices. Mass media and advertising accelerated during the 20th century and shaping consumer culture by promoting lifestyle and identity closely tied to the consumption. The Industrial Revolution initiated a major transformation by enabling mass production and lowering the cost of goods, making consumer goods accessible to a broad urbanization. Secondly, urbanization brought millions from rural areas to city, exposing them to new variety of goods and services. And this that makes a growing middle class with disposable income becomes a significant driver of consumer demands. So this advancement of technology, industries, automobile, and rise in standard of living, in which goods such as sugar, coffee, and tea, which was considered luxury in the past, now become a natural necessity for middle class or lower. In addition to the social consequences of the industrial revolution, it also had a positive and negative consequences in terms of architecture and urbanism. The agglomeration of factories and workers in the city had cut off men from nature, and homeowners in cities took advantage of this. The more people they fit in their homes, the more money they made. Therefore, the landlords in the city, benefiting from this density, started to keep their rent price high because they knew that they could always find tenants for their houses. And therefore, the settlement in some neighborhoods in the city reached unprecedented densities. This made cities more and more polluted and overcrowded. As the impact of industrialization, which was felt first in England, and it was in the form of mechanical slums, in which there was an exploitation of poor and small houses with deficient amenities. This new societal fabric of increased population called for more housing demand, low cost construction in cities, function along with functional based buildings, and a huge hunger of use of resources of new technology and sciences. So everything that affect people physically and sociologically has also direct effect on architecture. Therefore, architectural trend has been created in line with the need of people of new era of industrialization. And this new architecture trend has new aesthetical approach. The approach, this new architecture trend has a new aesthetical approach, and the approach is called industrial aesthetic, which majorly emerged as the outcome of the technological revolution in three traits, that is material, social, and culture. As an outcome of these changes, the Industrial Revolution entered in the advanced era of it. This new era has not only changed the architectural aspect but also the social aspect of people's daily life. We can categorize this new aspect with the use of cast iron, steel, and use of glass. Firstly, we discuss the use of the revolution of industrialization in terms of industrial aesthetic with respect to cast iron. Cast iron played a key role in transition from giant structurally dominating architecture to the industrial aesthetic, symbolizing the raw power of the new material and technology. And this transition was in the form of building elements of factories, skyscrapers, railway station, and urban designs. So the impact of invention of cast iron. This new invented material named cast iron has a significant impact and contribution towards this new industrial aesthetic because cast iron played a significant role in the transition from giant structure dominated architecture to the industrial aesthetic, which symbolizes the raw power of new materials, technologies in the form of building elements of factories, skyscrapers, railway stations, and urban design. Cast iron addressed the hunger of utilitarian architecture of new society. And now, as cast iron becomes affordable because of steel powered blast furnaces and rapid transportation, because the availability of raw material and fuel become faster. So the new cast iron, and as a structure member also, the new cast iron was durable, strong, and it was easy to mold in any form or in a desired form. Therefore, it was used extensively for structural components like beams, columns, and decorative elements. And it allowed architects or designer to create integrated designs and large open indoor spaces without the need of numerous supporting columns in the middle. So now designers and architects are capable of providing large open spaces, large barrier free spaces for utilitarian architecture like railway stations and factories. If we discuss the examples, I this examples of the use of cast iron. First, factories and mills were featured with cylinder cast iron columns for open floors, as in northern England textile mills, which were influencing continental design in the 20th century in the beginning of 90s. First example is Volkingen ironwork. It was Germany prevented this largest industrial movement. This star-like sign expanded through this early 20th century with cast iron blast furnaces and frameworks. And it was operational until 1986. The ironwork and steel plants were used with exposed cast iron for framing the machinery supports, blending utility with monumental scale. So, the use of new cylindrical columns of cast iron, the exposure of the machineries as a sculpture can be seen in this industry. The second example is Burley Book Academy. It was a fireproof building which was featured as a pioneering cast iron skeleton of arches and supports. Being after the Great Fire of Chicago, there was a need arises for fireproof buildings, and to provide them a requirement of beams and columns of cast iron were come into existence, and it was showcased the use of skeleton of arches and supporting beams beneath the bricks, red brickwork on the building envelope. It showcasing modernist designs into the 20th century before World War II destruction. Second example can be seen as a palace bridge balustrades. These balustrades from Berlin's palace. This bridge shows cast iron ornate detailing on the balustrades, which were typically of industrial era, embellishments that persistence of European infrastructure. The balustrades was ornated with cast iron railing, which had mythical motifs like seahorses, tritons, and neoclassical industrial hallmarks which are still visible. Next example of the use of cast iron can be seen in Palace of Westminster. The palace used wrought iron beams, cast iron roofs, and galvanized plates for fireproofing after 1834 fire. These exposed metal elements supported vast Gothic interior without timber and blending ornamental stone exterior with long industrial aesthetic. So, a vast use of glass can be seen with narrow mullions, which allows maximum light inside the building. At Carton House, which was the building that is made in 19th century, play featured with a cast iron and stained glass conservatory in its Gothic suits, showcasing early industrial materials. The Bessemer process of steel manufacturing allowed mass production of cheaper and durable steel in comparison to the cast iron. Therefore, the new steel played a new transforming role in shaping 20th century Europe of industrial aesthetic. It emphasized a strength, minimalized and exposed structural elements in architecture design. This new steel strength enables large open spans, sleek lines, functional beauty in factories, skyscrapers, and furnitures during the 20th century. As steel frames allow skyscrapers to exceed masonry limit, the riveted skeletons of this new durable strong steel are now supporting stone claddings and internal trusses. Welding, which was developed later in 1920s, the welding connections enabled sleeker modernist design without bulky rivets. So this sleek design allows long span roofs for factories and hangars and used trusses arches. So this new steel demonstrated the potential of iron as a structure material and become a symbol of new industrial revolution and as well as industrial aesthetics.
The first example of study is the Empire State Building, New York.
This structure relied on riveted constructions and prefabrication for its rapid assembly. This new approach created a stiff load-bearing skeleton capable of supporting 102 stories. The framework of this building, while designing the framework of this building, engineers used a braced steel frame with semi-grid connections between columns and beams, forming a stable 3D grid that handled in AEG turbine factory. Peter Behran used exposed steel arches on the facade, which was showcasing pioneer industrial functionalism. The core innovations made by Behrens was exposed massive steel columns and glass curtain walls on the facade. In those facades, he was rejecting historical ornamentation for this new temple of industry. The vast interior of this building was featured with clear span steel trusses supporting a 100-meter hall, which was flooded with the natural light to boost workers' productivity and symbolizing machine age power. This building has an influence of modernism, as this innovative building directly shaped the movement of bourgeois and international style later. Walter Gropius, Mies van der Rohe, and Le Corbusier worked with Behren's office. Therefore, they adopted his principles of structural expression, standardization of building elements, and art technology in a unity form. So, this shift elevated the Behren's concept elevated factories from utilitarian shed to cultural icons, paving new way of 20th century modernism, emphasizing on form following function. The next building, Chrysler Building in New York, built in 1929. This building had stainless steel crown on the top, on a riveted frame. This new structural expression was blending Art Deco with structural expression. Its design innovation with riveted stainless steel spiral assembling reached up to 1046 feet and made it the world's tallest structure. This building showcasing the engineering, imagination and industrial motive like hubcaps and radiator grills on the facade. When we talk in terms of the influence of architecture of this building, it popularized crowning of spires and grounds in later skyscrapers, as you can see in Empire State Building and Bank of America Tower, which was emphasizing distinctive silhouettes over pure heights. Next is prominent steel structure is Eiffel Tower, and it was erected in 1989 as a temporary exhibition structure for World Wars Fair. But afterwards, it became a permanent symbol of modern industrial expertise with new steel. And Brooklyn Bridge, which was completed in 1883, it was combining steel cables and stones, showcasing the fusion of traditional and new materials to showcase the new age of industrialization. Another important element which was invented in industrial revolution stage was glass. Before industrialization, the glass was handmade, therefore limited and luxury material. The production process was slow and very costly. Therefore, it had limited use in high status buildings like churches and palaces. And it was used for decorative and colorful stained glass, which was prevalent in religious and prestigious buildings. It was serving both the aesthetic and storytelling purposes through intricate designs. The quality of glass before was often inconsistent with imperfections that affects its clarity and strength. But now, the Industrial Revolution gave us float glass, processed by Sir Ellerstrain, which was revolutionized glass production. It allowed creation of the clearer and stronger large sheets of glass. The ability to produce larger pans enabled the creation of glass curtain walls, which transforming the facade of skyscrapers and modern buildings. Architects like Mies van der Rohe and Le Corbusier utilized glass extensively in their designs, and it was emphasizing the transparency and openness. This new affordable glass widespread its use in the residential, commercial, and industrial building, and advances in glass production enabled construction of large windows and glass facades, while enhancing natural light in buildings and promoting transparency in design to showcase the inside out. Futuristic movement embraced glass as a key material for its ability to create light, open, and flexible spaces. The profound example of the use of glass is Crystal Palace, which is known as a marvel of its time. The Crystal Palace, designed by Sir Joseph Baxter for the Great Exhibition. It had a cast iron framework filled with glass panes. This structure demonstrates the potential of glass as a primary building material. So, when we conclude, towards concluding this discussion, we could say that the industrialization transformed the societal perception drastically in terms of use of time, travel, material, and technology, and the standard of living. All these changes cumulatively give birth to the new typology of building, which was centered on shopping, entertainment, living, and consumption. So, this new typology can be categorized in different domains. The first domain is departmental store, arcades, and malls, focusing on shopping. The urban design, new commercial zoning, boulevards, and central plazas were come into existence to provide healthy living. Now facades. The facades were given new aesthetic, the machine aesthetic with the help of glass, transparent glass, and the ornamentation is now light and sleek and showcasing the brand. The interiors are now luxury materials full of lighting and the social use of spaces. Now social spaces in terms of for public interaction with private commerce are caught. The architecture style of this modern industrial aesthetic called for to ornament for consumers display to modernist rationalism. Means they want now the designers, the art and artist wants to advertise the building to the public. So therefore, a new societal thought process called for new type of architecture aesthetic, that is industrial aesthetic. Thank you for this lecture. We will continue the discussion in our next lecture.